Okay, last week the Bank of Japan, the equivalent of our Federal Reserve, announced that they were going to negative interest rates. And I've done some writing and some videos trying to explain what the heck that means. They're not the first to do this. Denmark, Switzerland, and Sweden have already done it. But when a powerhouse like Japan does it, we have to pay attention. Japan is the third largest economy in the world. They have the third largest bond market. And interestingly, they have the highest debt to gross domestic product ratio of any major economy. So as I'm thinking of this trend, is it going to stop in Japan? Is it going to go through Europe, which I certainly believe it will? But the question is, will it hit the United States? Sure. Would we go into negative interest rates, especially since our Federal Reserve just this past December increased interest rates? Now, we seem to be kind of in a stall, and there's a lot of debate going on here. I thought it would be a good idea to actually go back in time and let's walk through some history lessons together and see if we can't wrap our arms around a reasonable position of could or would the United States go to negative interest rates. So we're actually going to do 9 videos. They're all going to be in that 4 to 6 minute time period. This one is going to be the negative interest rates in Japan. The next video is going to be The Big Short, if you saw the movie, which I highly recommend. But there's an important lesson we can learn there, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to go back in time to 1910 when the Federal Reserve was first sparked, later to be officially implemented in 1913. We'll go through the Great Depression. Then we'll talk about the Bretton Woods Conference that anointed the US dollar as the world reserve. We'll fast forward to 1971 when President Nixon took us off the gold standard. We're going to look at some recent corrections. We've been having these major stock market corrections every 7 years, and a different player bails somebody out. So we're going to look at that. Then we're going to look at the National Export Initiative launched by President Obama in his State of the Union speech in 2010, and what that really sparked that a lot of people did not pay attention to. Then we're going to circle back to Bank of Japan, the negative interest rate, and see if we can't come to some kind of conclusion about what the heck's going on with interest rates and how that would affect our retirement savings and our investments. Okay, so we have the Bank of Japan, which is the equivalent of our Federal Reserve, and here's a banking institution. So in the simplest terms, a bank has money for reserving capital requirements. They have money they can lend to people, and then you have depositors, people that have their savings in the bank. So the Bank of Japan lends to this bank, has been lending at 0.1%. So whenever the bank would lend money to someone for a mortgage at a 3%, the bank borrowed at 0.1 from the Bank of Japan. They lent it out at 3.0, so they made 2.9. So that's how banks make money, right? Well, a week and a half ago, what the Bank of Japan said is on this money right here, deposit and money that you're not lending, we're going to start charging you a negative 0.1%, which means for all you depositors, you have money in here, instead of earning interest on your deposits, you're going to have to start paying the Bank of Japan. Why do they want to do that? Well, it's very simple. They want you to take your money elsewhere, sell the yen, the Japanese currency, and buy another currency, in this case, most likely the US dollar. When that happens, the yen goes down in value and the US dollar goes up. The cheaper the yen, the more you can do with it, the more you can buy, and so forth. And what this does is perpetuate a currency war, which we are going to talk about in this video right here concerning the National Export Initiative. So we're going to talk about that in detail on video 8. Besides the currency dynamic, the other thing that goes on with a negative interest rate is the central bank is trying to say, hey, put the money in the economy. Don't let it just sit in the bank. If you're allowed to sit in the bank, we're going to charge you. So put it out in the system. Why? Because banks are trying to create inflation. So what they're saying is, hey, go hire somebody, go open a plant, go buy a new piece of equipment, do something with the money, get it the heck out of the bank. But in a brutally slow economy, not just worldwide, but specifically in Japan, if you were a business owner, would you do that? You have the money in the bank, you're trying to protect yourself for the next shoe to drop, or you're protecting yourself from this. And this is the big problem. Debt overhang. So let's understand what I mean by debt overhang. You're going to hear this a lot, not just from me. You're going to start reading this and seeing this all over the press. So sticking with this theme about being a business owner, let's pretend you are an architect. And through a period of time, let's call it the 80s and 90s, business has been great. You're just making money. You're expanding. You're growing. Everything's awesome. It's going so well that during this period of all this growth, you do a couple things. You buy your own building. Instead of paying rent in an office, you go buy your own building and you hire a bunch more architects because everything's just going great. Then all of a sudden, bang. Business drops off, correction, however you want to articulate it, everything drops off and things just kind of start moving sideways. Okay? Well, to survive this, the first thing you do is what? You start eliminating people. Every once in a while, you get a spike up in business. That's great, but it doesn't last, and you just keep throttling along. You get rid of more people. Spike in business, or you're able to manage the expenses better. It slightly goes up, but it comes right back down, and just keep going sideways. What you need to have happen is you need to have the business grow and get above this level where you accumulated all this debt, for instance, with this building. You need not to get just to this point. You need to get north of this point in order to continue to survive all your normal business expenses, but also have enough extra money to take care of this debt overhang. But guess what? In this global slowdown economy, we never experience this part. We just, for the past 7-8 years, we just keep doing this. We see a little sign, then we come back down, and we just move sideways, which is just evidence of what? It's evidence of deflation. The opposite of what the central banks around the world are trying to create. They're trying to create inflation. They're trying to create this part, right? This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to do this, but there's so much deflation in the system that it just brings it right back down. That's why all the quantitative easing and all this stuff is not working. So here's the problem. Because the debt overhang is so heavy, and because of deflation in the system, guess what? We can't grow out of this mess. Can't grow out of it. We can't grow out creating enough inflation. Everybody has this 2% target of inflation, and we're just not getting there. So what's the solution? Well, quantitative easing didn't work. Zero interest rates didn't work. So now what's the next solution? The next solution is an experiment with negative interest rates. Like I said, Denmark, Switzerland, Sweden's already done it. Now the Bank of Japan is doing it. So through these 9 videos, here are the themes that we're going to focus on. Debt overhang, deflation in the system. We're not growing out of it. What grand experiment are they going to try next? And ultimately, it all circles back to this, the currency war. So I'm going to end this video here. Be on the lookout for the other videos. The next one up is number 2, The Big Short. Thanks for watching.